Hello there ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. My name is Phil and in today's video we're gonna have a camera comparison between the $250 Xiaomi Mi 9T and the $500 Samsung S10E. So on my channel I focus heavily on the video recording capabilities of these phones. I'm gonna cover the picture quality and the general pros and cons of each phone as well, but focus will be on video recording and on which one is the better value, and also to find out if a $250 phone nowadays has a good enough video camera to be the one and only content creation tool that you need.
Let's jump right into a video comparison test, and we got 4K 30 frames here. We got the Xiaomi 9T on the left and the Samsung on the right. We are on the main lenses here, and the first thing that I noticed is that under good lighting conditions, both phones take absolutely good looking video footage. In this shot, the Samsung exposes a little brighter and the highlights in the sky are a little more blown out than they are on the Xiaomi. However, the overall high dynamic range seems to be a little better on the Samsung. If you take a look at the lower half of the screen, you can definitely see more details in the shadows or single straws of hay or tiny holes in the dirt. Both main lenses have very similar field of view, but one thing that I noticed is when I was stepping out of the frame here in a second, the Xiaomi missed to find the focus on the background again. 4K 30 frames should give you the best image quality both of these devices have to offer, and overall I have to say the Samsung looks a tiny bit sharper, which becomes even more apparent if we crop in by 400% here, and the Samsung on the right looks sharper, while at the same time the Xiaomi on the left is even a little bit noisier than the Samsung. This clip is a good example of the different color sciences between both phones. Just look how blue the sky is on the right on the Samsung device, or how orange the building looks compared to the left side. Samsung is well known to push their contrast and saturation to the max, and the difference is very apparent here. If we crop in another 400%, there's barely any difference in detail. The Xiaomi on the left looks a little bit softer and just seems to use a little less digital sharpening. Overall, 4K 30 frames per second gives you the best image on either device, and the results are very close.
Okay, for a quick audio test comparison, the first thing I'm gonna recommend everybody to start video making with the phone is get a better microphone. So I have a little small lavalier mic right here, and it's the Rode SmartLav Plus, which you can directly plug into your phone and will work immediately. This is what the audio sounds like from the Xiaomi 9T with the lavalier mic attached. Audio test 1 2 3, audio test 1 2 3. This is the Xiaomi 9T, audio test 1 2 3 without an external microphone, just the built-in mic, audio test 1 2 3. This is what the audio sounds like from the Samsung S10E with the built-in microphone, no external audio attached. Audio test 1 2 3, audio test 1 2 3.
Moving on to a test of the ultra-wide angles of each phone, the first thing that I notice is that on the Samsung the field of view is quite a bit wider with 123 degrees compared to Xiaomi's 110 degrees. In my opinion, the ultra-wide lenses on these new phones are one of the most important things for the modern video maker. Unfortunately, they usually fall a little bit short in terms of quality behind their main lenses, and that is the case here as well. Here Samsung does the way better job, and Xiaomi on the left produces a very soft image with a lot of noise in the darker areas, and if we punch in 400% here, you can see that the Xiaomi device falls behind the Samsung pretty substantially. In perfect lighting conditions, however, the differences again become very minimal, and the only thing that really stands out here is the contrast on the Samsung, which becomes very apparent in my black clothes or the shadows in the background. I am very impressed with the results of the Xiaomi under perfect lighting conditions. However, in terms of the ultra-wide angle lens, I have to give the win to the Samsung, since it is the wider lens and it doesn't struggle as much in worse conditions and high dynamic range. Just for a quick comparison, the Mi 9T actually has a 2x telephoto zoom lens. However, that lens is not available for video recording. Instead, the phone crops in 2x on the main lens, which should give you a 2x digital zoom. For comparison, this is the Samsung on the main lens, also cropped in post by 200%. Alright, quick selfie cam test. We got the Xiaomi Mi 9T on this side and the Samsung S10E on that side. And this is the selfie cam on 1080p. The Mi 9T can only do full HD, but the Samsung can actually do 4K, and it's so bright I gotta put my sunglasses on. So we're gonna switch to 4K and see if this makes a difference right now.
And this is the 4K resolution. In general, I would not recommend using the Selfie Cam for video making, but for Instagram stuff, it's good enough. So. Alright, and we're doing one more quick selfie test here in the harsh sunlight. Both cams are on their best settings, 30 frames, 1080p on the Mi 9T and 4K on the Samsung. And I should be extremely bright right now, but it's gonna be interesting to see how good the background is. We have these trees here which are kind of dark and then the sky in the background, but I have to say the Mi 9T footage looks absolutely fantastic on that big old screen, and so does the Samsung actually. Do a backlit situation here, that's pretty bad for every camera. Where's the sun? There's the sun. Ooh, now I look better. For an Instagram story, and that is probably what most people would use it for, the selfie cam is absolutely fine. That's why I'm including these tests. This is just normal walking, not paying too much attention to holding the camera steady. And we're gonna go into a little bit of a jog here and see how good the comparison is between those two cameras. 4K 30, shake it a bit. Ultra wide angle, just walking, casually walking, and then we go into a little bit of a run. And let's see which one looks steady of those two. Since we're on the ultra wide, I'm gonna use the opportunity to do a little selfie test here. So a little vlogging test. This is the rear cameras. I cannot see myself. The ultra wides on the Mi 9T and the S10E. The S10E should be a little wider. Alright, going a little right-handed run back. Shake the cameras. This is what it looks like. This is very hard for the stabilization, but I'm curious what the outcome will be. And we're gonna do the vlogging test in 1080p to check the difference in image quality and in stabilization. This is if I casually walk around, not too slow, not too careful with the cameras. And then I go into a run. And last one, we have the Mi 9T on full HD and the Samsung on full HD in super steady. So this should be super stable. I'm gonna shake it a little bit. Like pretty hard actually. And just one last vlogging test with the super steady mode on the Samsung. Only 1080p possible in that mode. 1080p also on the Xiaomi. And I'm gonna shake a little bit. Super steady mode.
Now for a quick slow motion test. Both phones can record regular slow motion up to 240 frames per second. And while I think both results are pretty good, the Samsung looks a little bit overexposed, but also more detailed if you take a look at the grass or the trees in the background. The Mi 9T, however, lets you choose a 120 frames per second mode, which you can see on the right here, and compared to the one on the left with 240 frames, there's a slight quality increase and the overall image just looks a little bit cleaner. It is worthy to mention that Samsung only lets you record in 240 frames per second. And if you want the 120 frames slow motion, you just have to adjust the speed in post-production and you will not get any increase in picture quality. Now let's compare the low light capabilities of each device, and this is usually the area where the differences in camera quality becomes most apparent. In this initial shot here, it was almost pitch black in the room and the Samsung picture appears a little brighter. However, it is also the noticeably noisier picture of the two. And while I'm adding some colorful background lighting here, the Samsung seems to turn around and does an overall better job of delivering a clear image. This trend seems to continue as I'm adding a little bit of weak key lighting here. And overall, I think Samsung does the better job in low light. However, the Xiaomi is not far behind, and in the end, I have to say, I am impressed how far phones have come in terms of low light performance.
So what you see right now is basically the quality that you can expect from either phone in their best settings, 4K 30 frames per second, in a studio setup, though with a very, very low budget lighting setup. And just for a quick comparison, this is what the ultra wide angles would look like in a studio setup with adequate but low budget lighting. However, I would never recommend using the super wide angle lens in a studio setup unless you have absolutely blasting light conditions, because as soon as you don't have the perfect lighting conditions, the super wide angle lens just falls apart in quality very quickly. And bottom line, you should just simply use the best lens that your phone has to offer when you film in a studio setup.
Not to briefly cover picture quality, I think that most of the pictures taken on phones nowadays are probably for Instagram, and for that case all modern phones take good enough pictures. The Samsung overall might be a little bit sharper, but for example look at the skin tones, they are a little bit too much on the orange side, and all of that can be easily altered in post.
Alright, and we're back in the studio. Before I give my verdict on these phones, I just want to quickly talk about the user experience and things that I noticed. So I was out recording for a couple of hours and we have temperatures around 70 degrees this day, and what I noticed is that over time the Samsung got way hotter while recording video than the Xiaomi. Also, after a couple hours of recording, the Samsung had about 20% of battery life left, whereas the Xiaomi had 45%. So overall, from just a video recording standpoint, I would think that the Xiaomi has the way better battery life because it also has the way bigger battery. One thing that I didn't really like about the Xiaomi is it does not let you change lenses while recording video. Let's say you're on the main lens and you start recording video, you cannot switch, you cannot zoom. There's no way to access the ultra wide angle lens at that point and you're stuck with it. You have to stop it, you have to change lenses, and then you can start recording again. Whereas on the Samsung, while you're recording, you can just switch lenses as often as you want, and that is just super convenient to have. Another thing that I noticed shooting in bright daylight is that the Xiaomi screen is superior to the Samsung's. And I was a little bit surprised by that because Samsung is usually the market leader when it comes to screens. First of all, I like a bigger screen. It's just nicer for watching content or shooting video, whatever. But I noticed that the Xiaomi one was better readable in direct sunlight, meaning it looked brighter to me. I don't know if the actual specs are brighter than the Samsung, but the screen definitely was easier to read in direct sunlight than it was on the Samsung. So my verdict, are these phones good enough to replace a video camera, or do you still need to buy an actual camera if you want to record video semi-professionally or maybe for a YouTube channel? And my answer is yes, they are good enough. Because here's the deal, it matters way more what you're doing in your video, what your message is, what kind of value do you bring to the table. And even if the video quality, which I'm very surprised with each phone, would still be slightly worse than on an actual professional camera, that would not matter much in the outcome of the video. So are these good enough for taking videos for Instagram and YouTube and so on? Yes, absolutely. Also, I was actually surprised on how well the cheaper Xiaomi phone fared against the Samsung. Yes, overall the Samsung is still the better phone, especially when it comes to low light performance, but in bright daylight and in some occasions the Xiaomi almost looked better than the Samsung. So my recommendation, those two phones are from 2019, and I would say at the moment you don't really need a phone from 2020 to record video, because in my opinion 2020, at least so far, has more or less been the year of screen improvements than camera improvements, and you would absolutely fare well with one of these phones from 2019, which are also way better value. So for this comparison, I would say a $250 phone is all that you need, but in the end, which one is the better bang for the buck? Well, I leave that up for you to decide, so let me know in the comments below which one do you think is the better value phone when it comes to video recording, and also a little bit a better phone overall. If you like these camera comparisons, please like this video, subscribe to my channel. I'm gonna do more of these in the future, and until then, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.